Okay. Thank you very much. So indeed, Citizee, Citizen Financing for Energy Efficiency, it was a project with 7 partners and with 4 pilot countries demonstration. And it's based to develop citizen financing schemes that are funded by public-backed investment platform. And I will further explain that in the presentation. So the objective of the project, it was to set up a national or regional investment platform that could be based on the new definition of investment platform introduced by the European Investment Fund for Strategic Investment that attempt from 2014 to 2020 to promote this kind of development for specific reason. After that, it was to support the integration of citizen financing with this investment platform in order to fund energy efficiency program as large as possible with the citizen communities. And so the step applied within the project, it was first just to have an overview of what were the successful initiatives where public fund was trying to support the development, the growth of the citizen funding model, both crowdfunding and a cooperative model. After that, it was to look what is in practice an investment platform under the definition of the EFSI, so the European Fund for Strategic Investment. They have a specific definition and specific pathway to set up such an investment platform. And after that, just to look how to apply investment platform to citizen funding schemes, or at the contrary, or to apply citizen funding to an investment platform. So the 3 steps applied. And so the first objective was to look, and there is various ways, an existing initiative where public funds support the development of the citizen funding community. There is 3 basic standard model, which is first trying to support the market operator themselves, so a crowdfunding platform or a cooperative. And that could be done in 2 ways, by providing grants to the operator or by providing debt or equity to the operator. You could also support the citizen funding by supporting the project developer. There also with 2 typical phases, so providing grants to the project owner, or simply to provide debt or equity to the project owners. And after that, you can also try to support investors. And there again, with 2 different pathways for that. All those models has been applied, and in some in the deliverable speaking about that in the Citizee project, we gave several examples. It's mainly in the field of crowdfunding platform that we have a strong support, but there is also some initiatives that were applied with cooperative. The second objective was to look at investment platform. So what is an investment platform under the definition of European Fund for Strategic Investment? This is basically a financing structure that is set up to overcome market failure existing on the market. So what is a market failure? It's an investment project that could not be financed based on the market conditions. So they need to have some kind of enhancements to be financed. And how we do that? We use public funds either as a first loss or a concessional position to enhance the capacity of the private funds to fund the project. And through a specific, I would say, public financing instrument that could be basically mitigation instruments where we focus on risk. That could be co-financing or refinancing instruments, but that could also be grant instruments alongside private funds. And those instruments aim to remove an existing barrier that leads to the suboptimal investment situation. Barriers could be a gap issue, meaning the project really needs to have a strong equity part to be successful. That could be mainly the perception of risk by the commercial lenders that need to be modified, or there is different kind of barrier and with different type of financing instruments that are suited for the barrier. And how we do that under an investment platform, it's basically to have an instrument that could address what we call smaller project or riskier project. And that could be aggregated through the investment platform itself. So basically, public funds play the risk relief buffer for the private funds at the level on investment platform. And then you could also apply that at the different level, also at the financing product level. You can use public funds complementary to private funds to leverage some barriers at the financial product itself, and just also try to crowd in additional private funders at the product level, but you can do also that on the financial recipient or the project level, where you can leverage additional public or private funds thanks to the risk relief of the investment platform or the financing product. Based on that, we have been looking at the 4 pilot projects where they were what they were looking to address as a market, and what was the pathway they want to use as a citizen funding, either crowdfunding or cooperative sector. And we developed matrix analysis to have standardized, I would say, pre-digest investment structure that were possibly to apply by the pilot region. And so depending the scope of their project, we came to 8 proposed investment platform structure. This is really related to their project, and I will come back later on that. But this is useful for, I would say, project holders that has a similar target market, and that could be interesting for you. Then we try to apply it on the 4 pilot demonstrator. So the first point was to set up the citizen financing scheme. None of the 4 projects does have a scheme. It was to be set up, and then also to set up the investment platform itself, and then integrate the citizen financing within the platform. And so how we can integrate citizen funding within investment platform? 3 options. The first one is trying to integrate them at the IP level, which is the most challenging one. So we need to comply with a lot of financial regulations. So none of the projects try to go that way. After that, you can try to use the citizen funding operator as a financial intermediary, such as you can do with a bank or commercial bank. And so meaning you go through him to fund the project, go finance the project with the citizen funding operator. Otherwise, you co-invest or you invest or you develop a risk relief product at the project level, and you co-invest alongside with the citizen funding operator. So that was the 3 potential pathway to integrate that. Now, just a few words on the 4 pilot projects. We were in Lithuania with VIPA. VIPA is the national promotional bank of the country. So they are experienced people in financing regulation and financing development. So they manage basically investment funds. And they were developing a solar PV investment in residential building as a financing scheme. Based on citizen financing. So they had objective from the government to increase solar PV within the countries. And they were, with the Citizee project, really targeting to find a solution for the residential building. And so what was the channel they attempted to choose is to work with a peer-to-peer crowdfunding platform as a co-investors and potentially also financial intermediaries in Lithuania. And they set up an investment platform. This is the only project that succeeded to set up the investment platform on the 4th pilot project. And that was a public-private loan fund, which has been set up for multi-purpose energy efficiency investment. They were not only financing the Citizen Financing Scheme, but also additional investments, mainly with legal bodies and mainly in renewable energy framework, market. This investment platform has received the support of EFSI, European Fund for Strategic Investment. They benefit from an intervention of 12.5 million euro from European Investment Bank and some risk relief from EFSI. The second one, it's in Belgium, in Flanders, the Vlaamse Energiebedrijf. This is the Flemish energy services company that develop energy efficiency projects within the market for public authorities, but also for private bodies. And they were quite ambitious because they want to set up a deep energy retrofit EPC framework, energy performance contracting framework, in public buildings. So this is one of their specializations. So they developed that pretty well. And they want to go further and address now deep energy retrofit and to start with the education sector in Flanders. And so they intend to use as a citizen funding channel the ESCO, so Energy Services Cooperative. Cooperative mechanism is pretty well developed in Belgium and especially in Flanders. So they wanted to build around that, and they wanted to use them as co-investors at the project level through third-party financing within a project. The investment platform, they are quite close to set it up. It's more easy because it will be a fully public loan fund based on already existing public fund from the Flemish government, but also enhanced with additional layer of funding. I will explain that later in the presentation of the case studies. But a fully public loan fund for deep energy retrofit investments. And with this investment platform, they intend to deliver direct concessional loans up to 40 years to schools or other public authorities, local and regional ones. Sorry, I forgot to mention, so for VIPA, they provide, the investment platform provide direct loans to private bodies, but also intermediate concession loans to citizen bodies through the peer-to-peer crowdfunding platform. The third one was GoParity. GoParity, it's an existing crowdfunding platform in Portugal, which is quite active and pretty successful. And they wanted to use the Citizee project to increase and enhance their activities in Portugal. Of course, they want to focus mainly on energy efficiency investments and renewable energy investments, mainly in public and private bodies, SMAs, municipalities, and so on. And so they want to use, of course, their peer-to-peer crowdfunding platform existing as a co-investor at project level, as a citizen funding channel. And they attempt to develop a public-private loan fund for multi-purpose energy efficiency investment with a starting of 20 million euro. That would be able to provide direct concession loan up to 10 years to project owners alongside the crowdfunding platform or through the crowdfunding platform. And the last one is Regia. It's the Croatian energy efficiency association, not association, but agency. And they had various projects, but finally it came to about quite the same project than VIPA, but a little bit more open that could address public, private, and residential buildings, and trying to use existing peer-to-peer crowdfunding platform in Croatia as a co-investor at project level as first, because it's more easy to develop, but potentially also as financial intermediaries. And they look also to develop a public-private loan fund, but only for solar PV investment, and to provide direct concessional loans up to 15 years. so for a project. Just a little bit more information on 3 of them. So we start with VIPA. So at the beginning of the project, they already succeed to have a conclusion with the FSI. So to have an intervention of the strategic, the European Strategic Fund for, I mix always, European Fund for Strategic Investment. Basically, EFSI, it's a risk buffer in itself. You benefit from a guarantee from the Commission through the European Investment Bank that protect, that activate risk relief on riskier projects, that allow European Investment Bank to engage in more riskier projects. And you can have, for instance, guarantee first loss equity or specific loans with a very high concessional position. So they succeed to have an agreement when we start the project, six months after. So they were in the proceedings to set up really the investment platform under an LLP model. And they start to develop the activities to provide direct loans to legal bodies. And they were providing loans to ESCOs directly to public and private bodies, but also to renewable energy project developers. And in some cases, loans for shallow renovation in condominium by providing loans to the private body of the condominium. And through the Citizee project, they try to implement the framework with citizen funding and in order to be able to provide intermediated loans to citizen prosumers through peer-to-peer crowdfunding platform. And they should have been selected through an open call. And so in the various discussions, they came to a first agreement with the markets that the prosumer loan will be a single loan delivered by the crowdfunding platform that will have three components. One component, which is the intermediate loans from the investment platform at return on investment lower than the market requirement. Investment from the citizen, the second component of the loan, and then investment from the peer-to-peer platform operator also as a co-investor with the investment platform. And there they were in negotiation on what should be the return on investment from the platform operator itself. One word on the investment platform itself. So it was set up energy efficiency, I don't remember, platform. It was set up in, if I remember well, September 2018. And first contribution of EIB, 12.5 million euro, and a contribution in equity by the national electric production, Lithuanian one, of 10 million euro. But they faced some issue during the project, a legal issue, and finally the platform has been suspended by between 2 years. And they have to find a new co-investors as equity provider. And finally, they had an agreement with the European Energy Efficiency Fund just in February of this year, which came on replacement of SO, that was the national electric company. So some issue, I just explained this one. So it remains a challenge to set up and operate an investment platform, even when you have expertise, resources, and so on. Experience of VIPA is quite interesting. So finally, it's really operational on the last 6 months. It took more than 3 years to make it really operational. They also encounter some difficulties to leverage private investors. The objective at the beginning, it was to reach at least 100 million euro. For the moment, let's be honest, it's mainly, I would say, private public fund. European Energy Efficiency Funds. It's supposed to be a private fund, but it's mostly public funded. They also in a more practical way, they face really two big barriers, which is related to the regulation. The Lithuanian consumer credit law was a really strong barrier because it prevents private bodies to participate in peer-to-peer platform as co-investor. So as a citizen, you can invest in a project through a crowd funding platform, but as private bodies, you can't do that, depending the consumer credit law. So they have to modify the law, and it took more than 1 year and a half. And so they have been working with the Association of Crowdfunding in Lithuania with the regulator and so on. And finally, they succeed to have it at the end of 2020. And we start the project in April 2018. Another big barrier is that also the national financial regulation, there is now, that was new through the project, there was a European regulation that opened a bit the capacity regulation of the crowdfunding sector in Europe. So that offer more opportunities, but still the Lithuanian national financial regulation do not allow to invest more than 500 euro in a project through a crowdfunding platform per project, per co-investor. So this means that investment platform is still today able to provide only 500 euro. So it's really quite limiting the framework in the scheme. And so they are working on that to either adapt the national regulation, but it seems to be very complicated. And they try to find an alternative solution, such as buying the right of recourse on loan instead of being a co-investors. And they will find a solution, so it's not a problem. But indeed, it's a long way to come to operational and final framework. So another one, which is quite interesting, it's a Flemish one in Belgium. So it's citizen funding scheme to finance deep energy retrofit of public building through energy performance contracting with ESCO and ESCOP, or RESCOP. So the objective was to set up a fully public investment platform. Basically, that was using existing public resources. There is in Flanders the Flemish climate funds that provide grants to public authorities. And they wanted to use part of these funds to create a dedicated credit line. And instead of providing grants, they will provide loans at a very long framework of time, normally 40 years. And they were also supposed to use other funds. So they have negotiated with the sector organization that benefit from some budgets and to tell them, okay, now you are taking part of the budget and you are going to lodge that budget within the investment platform. And instead of using it as a budget, you will use it as a loan. It took a very long way to make those negotiations with the public sector organization, because of course it's taking part of their existing budget. It's not easy for them. In parallel, they were developing a very large EPC tendering program. So it's part of their core business. So they have a team of 50 people which are working regularly to develop and deploy EPC contracting. But they have there to work on the specific tendering documents. And there is some issue because you need to include RESCOP in it, really to look how to deal with the cooperative, energy cooperative, and how to. So that was also another challenge. And finally, they came to the conclusion that they will split the financing scheme in 3 parts also. So as deep renovation, as a short-term energy efficiency measure that are more profitable. That will be funded by the private partner, the ESCO, ESCOP, through third-party financing. Then the long-term investment measure, such insulation, building envelope, and so on, will be funded by the investment platform through a long-term loan. And after that, what we call all the comfort measure will be funded by the project owners on its own budget. So this is a mechanism that came quite interesting. And they are now implementing it on a pilot project with 65 building schools, and the intent to provide a first investment of at least 30 million euros. It's a demonstration in the demonstrator projects, but they really want to deploy it if the project demonstrates its efficiency. And I think there is 25 million square meters of public school in Flanders, so the potential is really huge. And so the problem they face, so it was really, they took a long time to address the possibility of the investment platform. At the beginning, they were really looking to develop a public-private one, but finally they came to the conclusion that it was more reasonable to go first for a fully public one, because it was potentially more easy to do. But at the contrary, you need really to negotiate with political authorities, which is not so easy also. But they took a really long time just to fix them. They work regularly with the National Promotional Bank. That was quite interesting to develop the framework, also in the public-private way. But finally, they came to that. And so the second part of it, when they came to the conclusion we need to have a fully public credit line, they took a long time to negotiate the component of the credit line. They had to negotiate with the Flemish Climate Fund, which has its own governance framework. They have to negotiate with the public sector organization on their budget allocation. So it took a very long time, but they finally succeeded. So that's a very good point from the pilot project. The second problem was the commitment of the public sector organization, so the beneficiaries of the scheme. At the beginning, there is two different education organization sector in Flanders. One we call it the legal one, funded by the government, and the other one, which is the private one, which is subsidized by the government. And they were all supposed to step in the Citizee project, and we really faced extreme difficulties to get them on board, mainly because they were a little bit reluctant to the EPC framework, but also to the cost allocation, to the financing allocation, and so on. Finally, they, despite the difficulties, they succeed to engage with the official public sector organization, GO. That signed a final agreement, I think it's 8 months ago, but with a very strong political pressure on GO, and also explain them if you are not going to do it, we will do it with other public sector organization. That's why we came with the healthcare sector organization that was a little bit more interesting to step in the project. There is another issue which is probably not yet fully solved, which is the compliance of the framework with third-party investment from the scope. We have had long discussion with the Eurostat organization in Belgium, which is ICN, in order to validate the compliance of the framework. There is probably some discussion also to be finally run. Also with the federal framework we are working on for the moment. So the last one, there it's a private-led project. So it's a Go Parity, peer-to-peer crowdfunding platform in Portugal. And so they tried to go through the idea to set up a public-private investment platform, not really ambitious loan funds that could provide, if possible, preferential loans up to 10 years to public and private bodies, and trying to benefit from the InvestEU framework and stepping in discussion with the European Investment Bank. And the first step was first to have first private local partner. And so they have discussion with the national promotional banks of Portugal, which were not successful. They had discussion with the main old public Portuguese bank, which were not successful. And they had discussion with 3 or 4 different private equity funds. Some of them were quite interested. Grosvenor, they had 1 year of discussion. They were quite ready to sign a first agreement, and finally it has not succeeded. But in the end, they have a first protocol of agreement with Blue Crow, and Blue Crow will put on the table, if I remember well, 20 million euro on the scheme. And indeed, the investment platform is to co-invest alongside Go Parity in order to be able to leverage more projects through loans, mainly to legal entities. So that could be public administration, SMEs, renewable developers, ESCOs that develop projects, and so on. And to provide the loans alongside the peer-to-peer crowdfunding platform under 2 different operations, which is a little bit more complex funding framework, but not so complex. Oh, sorry. You have it? Okay. Anyway, you can download the presentation. So the real problem of Go Parity, the key one, it's a very small SMEs, and they do not benefit from a strong public commitment. And it seems to be quite difficult to have a strong public commitment in Portugal. They run different projects with energy agencies locally, ADEM, not to mention it. They were a corporation, but which was not so successful as expected. And there you really look, when you do not have a clear commitment from the public authorities that really play the sponsor of the project on the public side, it's really difficult to go forward. Yes, so for the rest, they face the same difficulties than the other project. And by the way, even when you are a public-private bodies such as Regea in Croatia, they face the same problem. They really face a lack of public authorities commitment, with difficulties to reach the national level or the regional level, and to have key decision maker that could really go with them. Last slide. So some recommendations. So really to try to develop an investment platform, and public-private one, and more specifically with the IB, with InvestEU, this is something which is really quite complicated. It's the business of specialists. You really need to have some expertise and qualified people to succeed for that. Second point, you really need to have a strong commitment from a strong public partner or a kind of sponsor. That could be national promotional bank, preferably, because they are more autonomous if they want to go forward. That's the second point. What we see as well in the first study we make on public fund supporting citizen funding, but also within the project, is that the crowdfunding model seems to be more appropriate to co-investment. with co-investor, public-private co-investor. So because it's in their core business to be financial intermediation. So they are not banking operator, they are only between the investor and the project owners. So that's their core business. And it seems to be a model more appropriate to deal with co-investors platform. And so the last one, indeed, is that the financial regulation is the really key barrier. If you have strong financial regulation within your country, probably that will be a big issue for you. So the recommendation is first, the project Citizee was developed as we are first developing a platform, then we are looking where to apply crowdfunding, and then we are integrating crowdfunding. I think we should have do it in the other way. That's what is the conclusion for me. You need first to work your citizen funding, and first to embark a public sponsor to bring some public money to look where to enhance, reinforce, support the local development for citizen financing model. Neither crowdfunding, neither the cooperative one. Once you've done that, you can try to attract private investor, but not too much, not in a platform, simply to co-invest together at the level or through the citizen financing operator. And just to learn, that could be set up under a co-financing agreement with not necessarily a long-term view. You can start with 5, 6, 10 million euros. This is possible. And you have the risk relief and the reputation of the public partner, which is developing it with you. And once you have that, if you want to go with full private partners, you really need to have the capacity of the pipeline. If you do not have a demonstrated pipeline, addressable one, go for it to convince an investor, a private investor. So you can enlarge it once you have a scheme which is operational, once you have experiment co-financing with private ones, and once you have invest enough in securing a pipeline of project. There you can start to work your investment platform, and there you will have the attention of EIB and other, I would say, concessional fund provider. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jean-François. Any questions from the audience?
The RESCOOPs provide a loan for the renewables part, and then the EPC is with third-party financing from the citizen financing also, or how does that come?
No, it's a fully cooperative model. So the RESCOOP do not provide a loan. It's a third-party financing. So with an objective of balancing that part from the public, it's fully private. Yeah. And so, but to be complete, you need to have the performance guarantee. And some RESCOOP are not strong enough to do it. So the idea is to embark typical classical ESCOs from the market that agree to work with a RESCOOP, and they have separation of responsibilities. And probably that's what is pursued by the Flanders in the tendering document. The ESCO need to work with a RESCOOP that will invest in the renewable energy investment part of energy efficiency measure. So that's the way they develop the tendering document. it still needs to be proved to be efficient.
Anyone else? Yes. Just a second for the mic.
From the Netherlands. I see financial regulation is a key barrier. How do you approach changing this regulation?
I'm not legal specialist. We had within the consortium a legal advisor, but honestly, that is much more expertise in European law and mainly energy laws. There, the financial regulation, we benefit from the fact that during the project, the new EU regulation opened the door for the crowdfunding platform. So it really opened a lot of things. After that, you have specific limitation. You also need the time that the EU regulation come in the national laws. So it took some time. And after that, it's mainly national regulation that were the barriers. Indeed, for VIPA, that was the case. How did they approach it? They are under the authority of the Ministry of Finance, VIPA, so they have direct connection with the government. But even in that case, it took time. So for the Law on Consumer Act, it took more than 2 years. First, you figure out the problem, then you start to work to a solution, and then you make the process to validate it. It takes about 2 years. But for the financial regulation, I think they have better to go over and to find another way. So that's what they are looking, not to be a co-investor, but to provide in the peer-to-peer platform with a commitment to buy something, which allow them to go over the limitation they face in the regulation.
Thank you. Yes.
All given good with conditions to establish everything, what is the chance of not getting back the money from the loans?
Not to get back the money from the loans. Alors, indeed, I will come back on that very quickly. Oops. We had other presentation, and this is also showcase in the deliverable of the project. That could be interesting to look. That's the purpose, in fact. The idea is that at the level of the investment platform, the public funds play the risk relief role. And, it could be a full risk relief role. For instance, what we call a first loss position. It means that they are the last one to be reimbursed, and if there is no money, they have nothing. That could be also a guarantee mechanism. They cover part of the loss, or they cover part of the risk. So that's the way. But you, independently of that, you are never sure that you will get back your money. After that, you need to apply assessment of creditworthiness of the project holder and so on. That should be the job of the peer-to-peer platform, and they gain experience in that. Or the cooperative.
Okay, we have maybe time for one last question. You're very tired, eh? Okay, then we can also close because there's a plenary session waiting for us. So yeah, I think Citizee, and thanks to Jean-Francois, I think they try to explore, we could say, an unexplored territory in some way. And so I think EU funding is there for that too. So that's also another important element. So I encourage you to learn from what Citizee try to do and to build upon it and be inspired for following up. Okay, thanks a lot. Again, a big round of applause for Jean-Francois. And the closing session is in the big room over there. Thank you.